Welcome back to another Kadena Grantee Spotlight. I'm Ryan and I am the head of partnerships here at Kadena. And joined with me today is Dylan Hansen from Dear Data, who's going to get down into the weeds and explain to us all about the Oracle integration on Kadena. Dylan, always a pleasure to see you. Excited to kick this off and dive way deeper into what we're doing with Dear.
Thank you, Ryan. It's great to be back on another episode here, another podcast with Kadena. Always great chatting with you guys. So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we want to do is just get to know a lot more about Deer, a little bit about the origin, where Deer came from, where the vision came from. Walk me through a little bit of the background story or a little bit of the journey.
Sure. So maybe just start with context on myself. I've been on the BD team here at DIA for about 2 years. Before that, the team was actually founded in 2018, so been building for quite some time now. We have four co-founders, which came together to actually build out a product where they could basically develop an on-chain index where they could invest in, like on-chain assets and different cryptocurrencies and different products on chain. And at that time realized that there were no transparent oracles that they could use to actually source the data for that index. And so they kind of like were initially building out this one product and stumbled upon the need for DIA. And through working through the development of that product, decided to build out their own oracles and said, okay, let's actually source this data in a way where anybody can transparently submit this data. And so that was kind of the initial way that DIA was founded, or the initial conception moment of DIA, right? And then upon using it themselves, they realized, this is a product that could be of demand, and they saw that there were other teams that were needing this. And so the initial use case and really the initial idea behind DIA was creating this on-chain oracle that introduces 100% transparency regarding where data is sourced from in a way that other oracles are not able to provide.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And actually, thanks for teeing up something else I wanted to ask you, which is, there's a number of oracles in the space. And of course, oracles form this very important, intelligent conduit between Web 2 and Web 3. I mean, the concept of getting Web 2 data in a timely fashion onto the blockchain is actually not as simple as it sounds, but it's way more critical than we think. How does DIA position itself against some of the competition? I don't want to just mention their names. You're welcome to mention anyone you like, but would love to know how you stack up or how you find yourselves competing.
Yeah, absolutely. So at DIA, we focus a lot on the on-chain pricing of assets. These are like token price feeds. We've priced NFT price feeds. We also provide verifiable randomness in our product suite. We do a ton of a deep emphasis of pricing for liquid stake tokens. Now we're doing ordinals. So the product suite is rather comprehensive. That's one way that we like to distinguish ourselves, is ever evolving. But really the way that DIA is different from most other oracles, or rather all other oracles, is the way that we source our data. So whereas you look at the industry, and the traditional Oracle architecture is one in which data is sourced from off-chain third-party data providers. And basically what's happening in this process is these, and to keep it rather concise here, is these off-chain data providers are submitting information to, price feeds to the nodes of a given Oracle, which reach consensus and deliver the information on chain. And over time, this architecture has proven that it can be robust and well decentralized in the right architectures. But the particular caveat of that, again, relates back to the point I just mentioned, where because this data has been pre-aggregated by these providers off-chain, by the time the developers and end users on-chain access this, they don't know, there's no transparency regarding where the data is coming from on the source level. And so breaking that down into simple terms, you don't know the data is coming from Binance, Kraken, Uniswap, SushiSwap, the exchanges that we use on an everyday basis. And so the way that DIA solves for that, and the way that DIA is different on the architecture side, is that we source our data from first-party exchanges. So these are the DEXs, the decentralized exchanges, and the centralized exchanges that exist across the industry. So we go directly to these exchanges, directly to the source, and basically scrape, or rather ingest, we take in every single tick of a trade. So every trade, for theoretically, we could subscribe to all of the pairs, all of the assets that are trading on these exchanges. So at a high level, the way that we're different is the way that we source data. And then on the product side, this enables increased levels of, as I mentioned, transparency, but also customization and the ability to price more of these assets, because we have a more on-chain look at the amount of liquidity within certain pools on a DEX, or we have a much more comprehensive view because we're taking in trades from all of these different sources.
And does this help you guys with providing the highest level, I guess, of reliability of the data source? Because that's key. Getting the data on chain is one piece, great. Check that box. And
Absolutely.
getting it in a timely manner, again, check that box. But getting the data on chain in a verifiable, accurate manner is probably the most complex part. So, in what you were describing, is that how you guys solve for that as such?
Absolutely. So that's one of the ways that we solve for it. So, I would say, from the perspective of any Oracle provider,
Yep.
On chain, or the liquidity supporting a given pair, right? That you're sourcing from,
Yep.
liquidity is of utmost importance in producing a resilient, production ready price feed. After that comes like volume, the trustworthiness of the given source, the assets which are it's denominated against, to understand how this might impact volatility. So there's a bunch of different metrics that we look at, but like you're suggesting, we have the advantage in going directly to the source to actually evaluate and understand these metrics. So I would definitely say so. It definitely allows our product team and our quality assurance team to take a much more granular look
Mhm.
into these different variables to create these robust price feeds.
Oh, that's fantastic. There could be nothing worse than somebody relying on inaccurate data to make a life-changing trade. So thankfully, there are these mechanisms in place as such. Um,
Absolutely.
how about the customization of the feeds themselves? My understanding is, and I'll let you share this, that there's some set Oracle feeds as such, and then of course the ability to actually customize Oracle feeds. How hard is
Sure.
it to actually customize them?
So it's a great question. A lot. Let me start by saying different dApps, different
Yep.
like applications, have different architectures that need different oracles. Different oracle, I'd say, update parameters, right? So when you look at really what types of aspects we're customizing, it really relates back to, firstly, I would say the sources. You can customly select different sources, as I mentioned, which is interesting in some context, but I won't go too deep into the explanation here.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, let's say you're doing like cross-chain lending and borrowing and want to know the value of a collateral asset on Arbitrum. Well, you can actually isolate Arbitrum native dexes to price that asset
Gotcha.
specifically, right? But getting back to the question here, which is remind me the question here.
Customizing the Oracle feed. So if I want to customize the kind of data I pull or where I pull the data from,
Right,
whatever else, how hard is
right.
that to actually do?
Sure. So it's we make this quite very easy. And as I was mentioning, you might have a perp trading protocol or perp dex where you might need an Oracle update every couple seconds, every couple ticks. These are dApps that require high frequency oracles. Whereas if you're working with, let's say, like a lending borrowing protocol, it actually is oftentimes optimal to reduce the update frequency, because these types of protocols work with more long tail assets that have less liquidity and less trades. So you can actually increase the amount of data, the amount of trades that you're taking into consideration in between each update. And so all I'm getting at here is that different dApp architectures have different needs. A huge focus of ours is being bespoke to the point where we can support the needs of any dApp, the Oracle related needs of any dApp on any of the chains that we support.
Yeah, and that's critical, right? I mean, a one size fits all actually doesn't fit all.
Absolutely.
It's more of a this is what I'm doing. This is the data I need. I have certain characteristics or formats or types or whatever else that I want to grab the data for, and how I'm going to utilize it. There's one is the ingestion, and then there's the output. Like, what am I going to do with it, and then the output. So that's fantastic that you allow that level of customizability.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
also, in addition to the update frequency, teams have different price methodologies they want to apply, whether they want like a TWAP, a VWAP. There's different formulas of moving averages that we can support with.
Yeah.
So this is really a part of our core, core value offering when we work with dApps and teams here, is being able to support them on a custom side.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and certainly something to highlight. I think customizability, or the ability to actually leverage your data how you want to, when you want to, where you want to, as such, is really critical. You guys work with tons of blockchains. Everything from every and any type of background, consensus mechanisms, smart contract layers, or languages, etc. Um, Walk me through, like, what are some of the challenges for you guys when it comes to actually integrating a blockchain?
So yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at historically, just for some context, we are currently publicly announced live on 49 chains as of last week. Finalized two other integrations. So looking at 51 chains now, and historically these have been the EVM compatible environments. But in the last, I'd say, 2 years, we've found opportunity getting outside of those environments, right? Working with teams like Kadena, we've done like deployments in WASM environments, other Rust-based environments, a bunch of exciting things. And then from the development side, it's definitely one off, right? This does require more, like I'm saying, suggested before, like more bespoke integrations where we have very strong relationships with the development team or the foundation of a given chain in order to ensure that we're delivering correctly. And oftentimes, we like to be the go-to-market Oracle partner for most of these chains, and I think that they find great value in that, as we're actively helping them navigate the tooling, and what other functionality is required for data providers like Dia to support them. And so oftentimes it is a back and forth iteration process when we're like, going to market with a more novel development environment. Um, but I would have to defer to the tech team that we have, which has
Yeah.
been just so great in their ability to do this. They're really like, I owe all of the BD opportunities to their ability to deliver on these.
Of course, the engineers and solution engineers and devs and whatever else are a BD and partnerships person's best friend. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it. I understand
yeah.
you all too well. Firstly, congratulations. 51 chains is not a small feat. Let's not joke. Especially when you, as you just described, you haven't just stuck to one particular ecosystem. You've branched well beyond. There's a lot of edge cases, and you're right. The last 2 years, probably 18 months to 2 years, the industry as a whole has stepped out of just focusing on one type of chain or one type of smart contract language or whatever else, and actually branch out to integrating a lot more of the ecosystems. I love seeing the fact that there's this real strong focus around proof of work chains, of course, which is
Mhm.
near and dear to our heart. Let me ask a couple more questions, if I may. So, a couple of things. You shared a little bit about using Dia for pricing feeds, which would translate really well into a DeFi ecosystem. Are there other use cases outside of just price feeds for DeFi? And then I guess we'll tack onto the back of that also, what about NFTs or any other use cases in Web3?
Sure. Yeah. So I often reference these DeFi price feeds, these token asset price feeds, because that's the majority of the partnerships that we support within the DeFi landscape. So any type of application from lending and borrowing, as I mentioned, perp dexes, stable coins that have collateral, so on and so forth. But outside of that, actually, one of the, I guess, like DeFi use cases that I think has really proven its like product market fit, maybe just in the last year, is stable coins, right? And I just mentioned stable coins, but we're seeing, especially outside of the US, like the demand and the utilization of stable coins is growing like immensely. And so in essential for that is also forex price feeds. So we're, like a lot of these stables are based on like, or a lot of these assets are becoming collateral for like foreign currencies. And so Forex is like a product category that we've dove deep into to make sure that we can support comprehensively, supporting all of the like hundreds of if not like thousands. I would have to quote ask my product team here on how many we're supporting specifically, but all of the relevant Forex price feeds. Other than that, you asked what other types of you know products we're delivering for DeFi or other types of applications.
Yep.
On-chain verifiable randomness continues to be of big need for applications like gaming. Any type of game that you're playing where there's any instance of randomness in the game. And to put this into an example, like for anybody who let's say like plays Fortnite. This used to be a game of mine, right? You open a chest and you get like a bunch of random items in a chest. These applications don't inherently access this randomness, right? Oftentimes they need external data providers to actually help them like get true randomness and integrate it into their game or product. Also, like NFT launches often include some sort of random variables as well. So randomness is a big one that continues to be of demand throughout the industry. And then NFTs are interesting. We've done NFT price feeds. We've scraped NFT marketplaces. We kind of saw the volume for NFTs diminish, since I'd say like the last bull market, 2021 into 2022. And this product, candidly hasn't been of as much demand as the other ones, I would say. But in replace of NFTs, we've seen the growth of liquid staked tokens, which I kind of find somehow I compute those to be relatively similar because NFTs is where people were locking their capital, and we were doing NFT price feeds so that they could access additional utility off of their already held positions. That's the same thing with liquid stake tokens. I hold a token. I need a price feed for now my LST so that I can gain additional DeFi utility out of this. So I think that like it's kind of evolved in the sense of where capital is being held and how people need price feeds to actually support additional utility out of the vehicles in which their capital is being held.
Yeah, really interesting that you raised that with LSTs. I remember the last time we chatted, you were very excited to actually talk about LSTs and what you were doing with liquid staking tokens and the like. So good to see that that's continued. And certainly coming out of some events and talking to a bunch of projects actually building the ecosystem, LSTs are becoming a top narrative as well. If anybody knows me well enough, they know that I love telling a good story. So I'm gonna flip it over to you and ask you to share any success story you like of an integration, a use case, the value of actually deploying and integrating and using DIA as a product. I won't be offended if you don't talk about what we're building here. I think it's just good to share with the audience a real success story. It's real life. You're feet on the street. You're working with projects day in, day out. You're working with the blockchains, and then of course building product for the dApps that are building on top of the blockchains themselves. So feel free to share any kind of story.
Absolutely. So, for anybody listening, just to give some context, I think I would love to share success stories of Kadena, but we're just, at the beginning phase of kicking this whole thing off. So I think that all of the success stories are, besides the initial integration, are still yet to come. So excited to have those evolve so I can share those on the next one. But Absolutely. In the meantime, what comes to mind first is our success story on Arbitrum. And I'll get into some specific, dApps that we've done on Arbitrum. But Arbitrum, I love to use as a core example of like where DIA, is extremely strong, where DIA prevails. And the reason why Arbitrum is because this has become a very vibrant DeFi ecosystem where you see a lot of the applications on Arbitrum are launching tokens. And it's a very collaborative DeFi environment. So Silo is a lending protocol on Arbitrum that loves to integrate other Arbitrum native assets. And this is a success story for us because, as I mentioned, our sourcing architecture is one where we get data directly from these DEXs and these centralized exchanges. So any token that a team on Arbitrum is launching, the majority of them, I would say, initially they're launching them on, like, let's say Camelot or UniV3 on Arbitrum, or Curve or Sushi or Pancake. They're launching them on these Arbitrum, these iterations of dexes that are on Arbitrum. And so at Dia, we are the oracle that can support these price feeds for these types of ecosystem native assets once they, pretty much right out of the gate, once they meet our liquidity and volume and source criteria to be, a production ready oracle. And so with Silo is this great partner of ours who's done isolated lending markets where they're just like, let's keep shipping. How many, interesting Arbitrum native tokens can we support? And we've had such a good relationship built out with them because of, the fact that we are the oracle that's comprehensively pricing these Arbitrum native assets. And that's like my favorite success story because it's the best example of our what I like. This is like my passion with Dia. Like the best example that exemplifies where I get passion with Dia when we enter an ecosystem and can support that ecosystem with assets that were launched within it instead of just doing the top 200 blue chips that are omnipresent across all ecosystems. It's like let's really dive deep and build out the Oracle tooling for assets that are native to one specific ecosystem. And so, yeah, that's a really an example that I like to share for sure.
No, I love that. It shows one, the passion that you guys have in building, and two, the excitement to actually get, I guess, sticky. Get deep and wide with a project as opposed to just one and done, come in, solve a certain problem, and walk away. It's probably, I'm going to say, it's something that people building on Kadena can get excited about. That you're going to have this opportunity. You're going to have the opportunity to work closely with Dia, work closely with these price feeds, integrate them, and as you said in the very beginning, actually create bespoke solutions as well, where we may even uncover use cases that haven't been thought about yet.
Absolutely, and honestly, that's one of the things that I love so much about partnering with teams and chains like Kadena that are creating these more novel development environments that aren't just the copy pastes, like I'd say like EVM compatible chains, but rather require more novel DApp architectures. And for us to be able to, partner from the ground up and really be able to support them, that's like what I would say our founders love most,
Yeah.
maybe arguably most, is seeing how we can continue to push the frontier of like development within the DeFi and crypto landscape and create new types of applications. So
Yeah, I mean, you're
we're
busy
excited.
describing the ethos of a great partnership, which is what we love. It's not just about a transaction, it's about how do we drive mutual incentivization, how do we grow together, how do we build together, how do we improve together too, and then how do we nurture the ecosystems together. Yeah. What about some of the upcoming partnerships or integrations? You're at 51 now, you just said, or at least with the two new ones, it's 51.
Yeah.
What's either blockchains or even projects? It could be a project on a blockchain or in an ecosystem. What's standing out as something exciting that you're interested in getting deep with? And it's okay. It doesn't have to be Kadena just yet because we are just building our integration, but yeah, maybe it is.
It definitely is, Kadena. I'm definitely excited to kick this off. I mean, anytime that we ship and deliver and take the next steps past the initial integration
Yep.
is a super exciting time because that's when we can really start to deliver on the promise and the reason why we became, established a partnership in the first place. So I'm always excited, especially from the BD side, once that's delivered, to
Yep.
kick off connecting with the teams in the ecosystem that need oracles. So I definitely would say that. Of the other ones that are to be announced, I would have to confirm with our marketing team which of these
Oh
have
yeah,
been
fair
public
enough.
yet. But outside of Kadena, what I've personally been interested in, and I think I mentioned this a little bit on our last talk, was I find that the Bitcoin landscape is evolving very fast, and again relates back to kind of what I just said. There's like these novel asset standards or new types of tokens like ordinals and runes and novel DApp architectures that are being built within this new Bitcoin, the developing Bitcoin landscape. And so I see that this is a great opportunity for us again to dive in kind of the initial stages of this like Cambrian explosion of development within the Bitcoin ecosystem and help by supporting with the essential infra and tooling on the Oracle side for these new types of assets. And if not us, maybe somebody else will do it. But like I want to be part of that change that's happening, and be able to support that. It's like I said, it's great to support the standard blue chips, but we're already supporting and pricing ordinals, at the top, like BRC20 tokens and or assets, and I think that that's super exciting as we continue to partner with more of these Bitcoin side chains and L2s, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that whole ecosystem come to life. Somebody recently shared with me probably the best comment I've heard for the now elevation of the use of Bitcoin, and that is they're evolving well beyond digital rocks. So it's always, it's really great to own this digital asset, this essential digital gold, but till not so long ago, you couldn't do much with it. And so the introduction of the ecosystem, building on the ecosystem, and now, of course, you have to think about the key infrastructure components that we've seen in other ecosystems like oracles and indexes and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely super exciting to advance outside of just the rocks
Yeah.
use case there. But yeah, I think that that's awesome, and it's funny how it's evolved. At first it was this, like, you had the maxis, or the Bitcoin maximalists saying like there should not be any DApp development on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is for transactions, right? Peer to peer. It shouldn't be like all these types of DeFi applications and everything. And as I talk to the Bitcoin OGs and maxis around the industry, I think that this is evolving in a unique way because
Yeah.
of the opportunity that they see this bringing into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and all of the liquidity that can be unlocked through these
Yeah.
new types of applications. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and Dia is well poised to help out with this. So great opportunity for you guys to just elevate and build and offer your services as such. Um,
Absolutely, thank you.
so something I've been wondering about for a while. We would love to get you to share this with us. So there is a Dia DAO, as far as I'm aware. Um, what's the relevance or the functionality that the actual Dia DAO provides, either as it translates directly to your platform or from a governance perspective or whatever else?
Yeah, the Dia DAO really is well connected with the founder's initial vision for transparency, right? The core, like, I'd say, structure of a DAO is inherently transparent, right? You have all of these different components, and you have these open DAO discussions where everybody knows what's happening. There's not really this like internal closed off, closed source communication flow, I would say. And so it dates back to, like, this initial vision to become this this like open source, completely transparent oracle, and in support of that structure and an organization that goes along with that vision. And so the DAO is, right now, the role that the DAO plays is sort of twofold, right? So we have the DAO contributors who are a part of this Dia family and like fervent enthusiasts of the Dia vision, and contribute on like the marketing side. We have DAO contributors who help on some of the technical components, and in some more of these like in some in some of the roles, I would say, right, with like developing scrapers in environments that can then be like tested and like I've audited from the team, right? And so from the BD side, I work with a few contributors that help on a few interesting things. So we have the contributors, also help to just share the Dia, like mission, and share the Dia brand, essentially. And then also on the so on the forum side, yeah, we have the DAO forum, which is where, again, relates back to transparency. dApps come and request price feeds through the Dia forum, which is part of our DAO, right? And so every custom dApp deployment that we do is done transparently. Every relationship that we have with teams is transparent. When we vote to add a new source as default, it goes through a DAO vote. We have different grants sometimes on different chains to help subsidize gas for some teams, and the DAO can vote on who becomes a recipient of that. And so the forum is basically this on-chain governance aspect of the DAO. And then over the years, right, the DAO contributes to the long-term vision of the DAO contributes to the long-term vision of DIA. As an essential Oracle infrastructure provider, and you mentioned we're on 51 chains and counting. This is no easy feat because we're not a team that wants to deploy and then hop to the next hot environment to catch the narrative. Like we want to partner and build from the foundation up and support teams for the long term. And so this is only going to be sustainable over the long term with an increasing number of contributors and increasing DAO. I know that the founders want DIA and the DAO to live well beyond their contributions to DIA. And so the DAO is also gets towards this long-term vision of how DIA will continue to scale at the size required, over the long term.
Oh, that's fantastic. So they do actually contribute rather well to the enhancement and the delivery of your services to the outside world. I mean, whether it's marketing or whatever else they're actually providing, even governance and voting and whatnot. That's fantastic. Not often that you see DAOs really come to fruition and deliver on the vision of an actual business.
I
Yeah,
agree. No, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's easy. I think that the DAO is um, is this ever evolving structure that needs to be kind of nourished and needs to be
yeah,
worked on to make
yeah,
to make it work. So yeah, I would certainly say we've had the evolve it's evolved over the years, right? We've had the trials and tribulations of getting the DAO up to speed and where we want it to be, and to reach this scale that I was mentioning, where this can live well beyond the core founders and the core team. Right now, I think
yeah.
we still do have some work on the DAO side of things, but nonetheless, it's what we are focused on as it relates to the DAO and the longevity of DIA. So it's important that we do so.
Yeah, I mean it's almost part of your product, the same way that the product evolves and the business evolves and you grow. I mean, the whole landscape evolves, so will the DAO. Um, what about some additional services or offerings or new kinds of markets, new types of business models? I mean, what can you share around where DIA is going?
Yeah, so this is a super exciting one actually for me. And I think I can share as much as I'm going to about this because if you go over to the DIA website, we have a whole tool for this already on demo for people to see. It's called Oracle Builder. And what we're getting towards at DIA is becoming a permissionless, automated or rather, I should start over and say that what this tool is getting towards is offering permissionless automated Oracle deployments. And so all of these customizable aspects that I mentioned, where teams come and request the support for this is all going to be done in an automated fashion where teams go, they enter which assets they want, the update parameters of those assets, any outliers, cleansing methodologies, the destination chain where they want this Oracle to be deployed, and then click deploy Oracle. They fund it with a little bit of gas, and instantaneously the Oracle will be deployed. And so I'm super excited about this. This is how we're going to get to alongside what I was just mentioning with the DAO. This is really the product that's going to help us get to scale across this insanely fast growing the crypto landscape with all these chains, with all these dApps. We look at Kadena and it's really interesting, all of these chains that will be kind of operating in parallel. And so I think that even this is a good example of where the tool could be applied, right? It is having this automated Oracle deployment across all of any dApp on any of these parallel chains. And so I'm super excited about that. And then, ideally, right now that's for oracles, but ideally this can become permissionless and automated in the sense where chain deployments as well. So, okay, you need Kadena, you need a new Oracle deployment on chain 5, chain 35, chain 105, doesn't matter. Ideally you'd be able to click a few buttons and with a no code solution, be able to deploy that. So that's super exciting for us.
That's incredible. That reminds me of a concept of almost like an oracle, a DIA or an Oracle agent. It's here are my parameters.
Yeah.
This is what I want to see. Go. You go build it for me. Come back when you're ready, and then let's, which should be pretty fast because it's just code. And
Yeah.
then let's actually use it, and you can check it, test it, verify it, and deploy, which is not uncommon to what we're seeing in the industry as a whole. I mean, the birth of
Yeah,
and the integration of AI and AI agents, and then of course the automation and quick deployment of agents or oracles in this instance is fantastic.
absolutely. I think the on-chain agents, AI agents, is such an interesting topic
Yeah.
because it will really it has the potential to really change the way that all of this is operating, right? Like the way that trades are executed, pretty much everything. And so right now, as we've seen in my experience, my opinion, right, we've seen this industry where as things evolve, fragmentation grows. When we see all of these roll-ups now, these are fragmented, with separate isolated liquidity for each roll-up, and it's difficult. But I think with on-chain agents and like automation of this sense that we're discussing, ideally we reach this inflection point where all of this fragmentation becomes diminished, and we start to have easier connection between all these things. Like if I want to broadcast a transaction that does like something on Kadena, and then also within the same transaction goes and does something on like an Arbitrum Orbit L3, reducing the fragmentation there, by just one click that the AI agent can go and
Yeah.
do for me instead.
Yeah, it feels like I love this because this is what efficiency looks like. This is what effective operations look like. This is what simplicity in the space starts to look like because,
Yep.
and you're also removing human error from here because this is just code and computation making something happen. You've given it the task, now go make
Yeah.
it happen. It's just
Yeah.
math at the end of the day.
But you raise a great potential question there. What about the AI error? Sometimes you
Yeah,
get ChatGPT and it gives you the wrong output. There is
absolutely.
it's definitely, so we're navigating this as well. The extent that AI will play a role on data collection, data
Yep.
filtering, data processing, data delivery, but also on all of these on-chain variables. Like volumes will probably be increased. We might have more efficient like liquidity provision across different
Yep.
pools. So who knows? But it's important. I think that all teams need to be having like a pretty strong focus on how the AI landscape is
Yeah,
evolving.
and automation as a whole. I mean, I kind of, and I don't know if this is a vision or a possibility, but I kind of envision a way where, for us, we have multiple chains, 20 under the hood today, scale up to 1,000 plus whenever we need to. Um, but what I picture is we have an automated creation of an Oracle agent. I'm going to call it that in this instance, which we know is verified. We've tested it. So it's being created by code automatically, but a human has verified and tested and whatever else.
Mhm.
And then if somebody on chain 17 or 39 or 103, as you said, wants to do the same thing, they can just pick that exact same agent and deploy it. So you
Mhm.
now cut down any kind of integration time or validation time. It works and it's verified, worked, and usable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect time that Kadena is, that all of the infrastructure on Kadena and sort of this ecosystem is reaching this state of like
Yeah.
now explosion, right, of growth here, because the parallel chains make sense for throughput, but like you're saying on the tooling side, that historically has been maybe I don't know, a bit of a limitation with the parallel chains. And so I think it's great because now we're entering this period of time where the tooling will be equipped to support all of these different
Yeah.
chains, and therefore,
Yeah.
the benefits of having this increased throughput and scalability will be also still present. So I think it's gonna be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could have the Kadena Dia almost automation marketplace internally, and people can just come and select and build and contribute and take, and potentially, like you guys run your DAO, we could have community building and contributing, etc. Um, I guess last question for you, actually. Um, any upcoming features, functionality, technology enhancements, product enhancements, not actual products, but maybe enhancements or value or anything that you want to share? Um,
That kind of is probably what I just referenced is this like Oracle Builder tool, shipping that live across all of the chains that we're live on, and um, working with teams like Kadena that need these Oracle deployments across all of their chains, or roll up as a service providers that will be supporting hundreds and then thousands of roll ups. Like you're saying, like for me, the next stage of Dia's maturity is getting to this automation point where we can support the scaling that the industry needs on the tooling side. So that, and then yeah, just seeing like it's super cool from the Oracle side because as the landscape evolves, new architectures have new Oracle needs. So from our end, we're doing everything we can to support how we see this evolving, and then as it continues to evolve, I think that we're in a great position to for longevity where there's always going to be growing Oracle needs, and it's super exciting to be on the side of that where I get to do the research and see how these needs are evolving over time. I thought that's a great part of my role is being up to speed with kind of everything that's happening across all of the chains. So I don't know. Hopefully, a lot more. Hopefully, I think over the next year, we're going to see a bunch. I also, yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Yeah. No,
But
all
there's
good.
definitely some.
It highlights the value of this partnership and the value of how Dia operates. We started off with this right in the beginning of this conversation about being nimble, not a one size fits all, being flexible, being able to evolve and build and iterate and grow together. And that is critical for our um, partnership ecosystem and how we look at partnerships. And the fact that you have that mindset in place is only going to be beneficial for us and for our partner builders, our DApp developers, our developer ecosystem, etc.
I couldn't agree more. I'm super excited to kind of kick off this next stage of our support on Kadena, and like I said, work with all the teams that are building these exciting products on the chain.
Yeah,
Um,
likewise.
yeah,
Likewise. Super excited for the partnership. Always love chatting with you, Dylan.
likewise.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate the energy. Appreciate all the alpha you've shared with us today. And look forward to the next time when we can talk about the progress, some of the integration, some of the enhancements, and let's see what else you can share with us too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on another one of these great episodes. I love joining. I'm happy to hop on whenever there's a spot available, and
Excellent.
I'd love to invite you guys on one of ours too, where we can dive more back into your side of the industry. Right? We can reverse roles here and
Yeah,
hear about all the exciting things you guys are building. And but that said, thank you for giving me the time to talk more about Dia, and super excited to see what comes next in our partnership here.
absolutely. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.